Hello, BookTube. It's a rather dark, cold, rainy night here in Vermont. It's been raining hard all day. We're getting the remnants of a storm that have caused people to really suffer. Um, been reading all day. The Decameron, finding it very enjoyable for the Decamerama. Um, but I was watching BookTube tonight, and Steve Donahue um, tagged me and several other folks with the Guilty Reader book tag, and it was a relief. It gave me a reason to come up and film and take a break. And it's a Guilty Reader book tag, and it was created by Read Like Wildfire. And I'll link Steve and Read by Like Wildfire down below. And before I get to the question, Steve talked a little bit about community and his pieces worth watching, because I think I've been booktubing for a little more than a month now, and it's been an amazing experience, and it matches his comments, so very much appreciated. So the first question is: have you ever regretted a book you've been regifted? I've regretted a few too. Have you ever regifted a book you've been given? Um, I actually have kept books that I'm not really interested in that I was given, and I love books as objects, and I like the history of the object. I like books as physical things, and but what they contain also matters. So it can be a really nice addition, but if it's something I'm just not interested in at all, unless it has some particular meaning, how it's made, something or the history of it, um, I might not keep the book. I do for sentimental reasons sometimes, but there's only so much space in my house. I mean, so I probably have regifted if I thought somebody would really love something. Maybe I kept it around for a few years, and then I would give it to somebody. And I don't see books can be recycled. That's one thing lovely about them. Wonderful. Most of my books are used books. So if they end up somewhere else, that's fine. I love seeing books with little notes and they know they have a history. So that's just part of them being objects. Number two is: have you ever said you've read a book you haven't? Um, Probably. I'm sure I've done it in high school. You were supposed to read this by the end of the week. Oh, yeah, I read it. Then run home and read it over the weekend or something. So I'm sure I have. Um, Number three: have you ever borrowed a book and not returned it? Again, I'm sure I have. I don't like loaning books. I don't like borrowing books. I've got a couple here right now that were lent to me to get me to enjoy a particular author, and I did, but there were multiple volumes. I didn't want to read all of them just because I enjoyed one. There's only so many hours in the day, and I look at them over on that table over there and make sure they're okay, and then we'll be glad to get them back to the person. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't like. I've lost some of my favorite treasures lending them out because I'm not as good at saying no as I should be. I'm not as you think somebody my age would be adept at it by now, but so there's a lot of them I wish I'd never lent out. So have you ever read a series out of order? Well, Steve mentioned Fawford and Grey Mouser, which I've also read out of order, and I also mentioned the other day the Miles Vorkosigan saga, science fiction saga by Lois McMaster Bujold. I've read out of order. I've probably read a lot of them. I know mystery series, um, when they're long series, a lot of times someone will say, hey, you need to read this writer, and the most easiest one for me to get is something out of order. And they say, oh, it doesn't matter. And a lot of times it's true. I mean, I think I did that with the Hamish Macbeth mysteries, cozy mystery. I've done it with a lot of, and if the author's good at their craft, and if the series is designed to lend itself to it, it's not usually a big deal. And then I go back and reread them sometimes. I think I did that with the Biblio Peabody mysteries, the Egyptian archaeology ones, and I loved them, so it didn't really matter. Have you ever spoiled a book for someone? Probably. Never intentionally. Maybe exuberance or losing control of letting my mouth outrun my brain. I know I do it with movies, to my wife's dismay. When we first got together, there's famous stories about a movie I was excited for her to see, and by the time she's done watching it, I had talked to her all the way through it, and I never did that again. Have you ever dog-eared a book? If I could do a primordial stream now, I would. I just can't stand that. I buy a lot of used books, and I'm like really weird with my books. I cannot. That just drives me crazy. Have you ever told someone you don't own a book when you do? I don't know if I've ever flat out done that. But if somebody's looking for one and I've got a nice copy and I don't know them well enough, or I know them too well, I may not mention the fact that I have it because I don't want to get in ruin. So I'm sure I've done the omission part. So yeah, I'm probably guilty of that. Have you ever told someone you haven't read a book when you have? When I was in high school, a freshman in high school, there was a book by a classic writer named Xavier Hollander making the rounds of the high school, and I remember my dad finding out and asking me if I had seen that book, and I believe I denied it vehemently. Have you ever skipped a chapter or a section of a book? Yes, and intentionally. In school, doing papers, doing research. I need a particular chapter or a particular section of a book and not need the others. Or I have better sources for one section and then a book's good for another. So there's a lot of times that could happen. I've probably done many times. Have you ever badmouthed a book you actually like? I can't even understand. I don't understand the point of the question. Have you ever badmouthed a book you actually like? No. I can't imagine ever doing that. So, that was fun. Guilty Reader book tag. I'll go ahead and I don't know if they've been tagged because I can't remember who was tagged, but if you're interested in doing it, tag Earnestly Eston, the Paperback Junky, Biblio Atlas, and Runwright Reads. So that was a Guilty Reader book tag, and thank you, BookTube.